Hello. Good afternoon, morning for others. Welcome to this webinar on the impact of the Internet of Things on purchasing. I'm Hervé Legenvre, and I will be your host together with Sidmara for this session. Really the idea of this session is trying to understand will be the impact of the Internet of Things on what we do in purchasing procurement context. And I think it's not just about changes that are already happening. Some we can already see them, but it's also looking at some of the forthcoming change that we will see becoming more and more important and pervasive over the coming years. As I still see quite some people popping in, so I'll be giving you a little bit of information during the whole session. Don't hesitate to use the bottom left the chat box in order to send some question. I really enjoy when we can at some point have some lovely exchange discussions, and if you want to just to be in full screen, then there's a little cross that you'll be able to use on the top right corner of the screen. Maybe just in terms of attendance today, it's really glad to see people coming from such a diverse background. We've got 13 European countries that are represented, plus people from the US, Brazil, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, and Malawi. So that's a very broad geographic representation, and it's really the same in terms of industry, with people from the hospitality industry, chemistry, food, beverage, energy, engineering, pharma, cosmetics, oil. So again, and very, very broad, plus a few more, I guess. So that's really interesting to have this very broad perspective and diversity of participants for this topic. Just a few words about the EIPM. We are a school purely dedicated to purchasing and supply management, and we only do training and education program with a global footprint. Some campus in next to Geneva and one in Shanghai, but also 7 branches across the world, from China to India to Mexico, Brazil, and a few other places. So really a global footprint. We go where our clients are going, focusing on pedagogical expertise, really bringing some of the new tools and practice, and established tools and practice to practitioners, essentially. Focusing on building good client relationship, answering their needs, accompanying them, not just in educating people, but bringing transformation within the procurement function. And we are a research-driven organization, and today's webinar is one of the example of this. Really trying to be at the forefront of what's changing across industries, and understanding implications and how we should see the purchasing function evolving. So the Internet of Things is a good example of this. In terms of takeaways for the day, I think for me what I would like to achieve is starting by helping you to really picture what is the Internet of Things and how it's going to impact some of the value chain, some of the industries, because we need to get to that very clear picture and really see how this is not just transforming companies individually, but networks of organization, ecosystems, value chains. You can use whatever name. There will be some massive transformation, from this sometime called fourth industrial revolution. And from that, when we understand what's going to change in a broader context, we'll be able to foresee some of the impact on, purchasing activities. This will lead us to, a question how we should be having our organizational models to evolve. How can we adapt to this transformation in the way, in our processes, in our ways of working, and many other dimensions in forms of collaboration we'll build as well. So really, the objective of the session is to you in order to reflect on current business transformation. And I'm not here with a clear picture on everything. I'm just here to bring a few thought-provoking perspective that can lead you to react, pose some questions, make some comments, so we can in many ways build also on the exchange. We'll be running a number of polls in order to also make sure that we get your views on some of the key points, and we keep you awake and alive during the session. How we got here, the Internet of Things, Industry 4.0, digitalization, there's all these words around. We're trying to maybe bring a little bit more of a sense and definition behind that. But how did we start to study this? And we go back 2 years ago, about this time of the year, and we decided that it was time just to start looking across different sectors in terms of what this whole connected thing, Internet of Things, will do to the procurement function. And we started by running a number of interviews with chief procurement officers on one side and some Internet of Things thought leaders. And that was back in 2015. And then we had a conference where we did a large group exercise, stepping into the future and trying to understand the impact of the Internet of Things on our industry and the impact of the Internet of Things on our purchasing business model. 2016 was very much a year we decided to go deeper into the topic, organizing some workshops, working on a toolbox in order to help anticipate the IoT transformation, looking at case studies that have been documented since, and putting out a final report of the Observatory of Value Creation, which is our research entity, in order to share some of the findings we had on the topic. Today, we're still collecting case studies, disseminating research outcomes, but also we've got some research academic collaboration. And 2 weeks ago, we've been kicking off a special interest group within the purchasing research community, PSERA, together with the Fraunhofer Institute and the VNL from Switzerland, who are two practitioner-oriented type of research groups, in order to stimulate more academic research in this field and building some bridge in terms of connection with some practitioners in this area. So we've published a Value Creation Observatory report on this. Welcome to the Internet of Things, time to rethink a purchasing business model. And we've worked for the workshops on a toolbox. And there will be a further seminar, a webinar in June, where we'll be going into some of the ecosystems analysis, and part of it is integrated into the toolbox. That document is available from our website, and you can easily access it through our website. The agenda today is first spending a bit of time trying to understand what we mean by Internet of Things, sometimes taking some very simple examples, but really to illustrate what it is, then the impact on purchasing. Then I would like to go through a number of case studies to illustrate in practice how this is changing what we do. And then, having a broader analysis in terms of how we should be embracing some of the changes within the procurement function. What does it mean for us? Because at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure that's what you're really interested in, is to understand how the function is going to evolve and what will be the broader impact on our ways of working. Again, share questions whenever you think it's relevant. It will be good to be able to be as interactive as possible. So what does Internet of Things mean? The first element is it's sometimes a little bit difficult to isolate the concept of Internet of Things from other trends. So what we see in terms of other trends is a move from value chain to ecosystems, and the Internet of Things is really bringing this concept of ecosystem to the forefront, not just having a chain of players, but a multiplicity of players in competition and collaboration that are bringing some, innovative solution to the forefront. It's also connected to another trend, which is the personalization of everything. Connected objects are allowing individuals to have, diagnostics and to have, specific devices that help personalize quite a number of consumer experience. And we see that also happening on the B2B side. Open innovation, the Internet of Things is not going to be coming from the R&D functions who are going to be, vertically kind of inventing the IoT for their company, but it will be about, bringing some of the innovation from outside, coming from big companies, coming from research institutions, but also coming from small companies, from some startup, which bring me to the, next trend, which is the rising role of startups. And we're just publishing this week a new report of the observatory on working with startups from a purchasing point of view, which is, also somehow in many sense connected with this topic. And another dimension is where there are connections is if you think of the circular economy, if you think of sustainability, we are looking at, game changers, real transformation of companies' business model, and what the Internet of Things will allow in terms of monitoring connections will really be a good infrastructure that will support the transformation of our industries in a more sustainable business practices. So all of these trends are mutually reinforcing each other. I'll try really to stick to the topic of Internet of Things, but we need to see that as being part of a slightly broader transformation. So what's the story about the Internet of Things is, well, we used to have a physical world. We used to have, products and equipment, and this is the world of things that existed, the physical world. And in parallel, over the past 20 years, we've seen, the development of the digital world, starting from the, the internet, the email, and the social networks, and all of these digital processes, digital companies and digital experience. And today we are at the point where these two worlds are currently connecting. They are currently, interpenetrating each other in a much stronger way than before. More and more objects will be connected to the internet. It won't just be about them talking to each other, passing information to each other, because this set of interconnection between the physical world and the digital world is going to be like a 1+1 situation where many companies will be totally transforming their business model, rethinking their position in the industry, and thinking what kind of competitive advantage they can gain now and how they can move into new business space, building on what's developing through the Internet of Things. In terms of application, I'm not going to go through all of these applications in many depths, but whether we think in terms of personal care and health, we've started to see wearables and some diagnostic tools, that devices that can help to understand where we are in terms of health, beauty, fitness, wellness, productivity. Hospitals are also getting connected. We've got connected buildings for a number of years already that really help to control buildings, to manage energy, ensure safety and security. On the retail side, we see like the convergence of the different experience of the consumer, not just looking at different channels, but bringing everything together. There will be many more ways in shops in order to get information about the product and interact with some of the product and interact with other people. We'll see more connected vending machines, smart packaging that will be interacting with us. New payment solutions will totally transform, some of this very simple of operation like paying for something. And all that will be connected to some of the, CRM and some of the systems we're already using, and allowing to build some new customer experience and potentially new services and new business model. Factories and work sites will be, heavily connected in the future. This will lead to a massive increase in terms of efficiencies of operation. There'll be many more sites that will be having much less people on site, and at the same time, more remote operations with predictive maintenance. We'll see the circular economy with a lot of reuse and the sustainability practice being embedded and supported by, the tracking and the intercommunication of the Internet of Things. This will lead to, different ways of training people, ensuring safety and security also within factories and work sites. So strong impact in terms of efficiencies here. Connected cars, autonomous driving, having access to the fifth screen, what we have on our mobile phone. This will be, inside the car, new interaction along the road. There'll be a lot of, application that we'll see emerging in the automotive. And cities are becoming smart cities with, enhancement on traffic management, smart lighting that will be used for other purpose as detectors of, population passing by, and as a Wi-Fi charger. Waste management, will be much better managed across cities. We'll have smart roads that will give you some information about, where you want to go, and paying attention to a number of key things. So, there'll be a lot of things coming in the next 20 years in terms of smart cities that will be enabled by the Internet of Things. Logistics, tracking, temperature control, real-time routing. When a ship will be arriving in a harbor, we'll be sending some message just before, so everything is synchronized. Then, some of the basic maintenance or services that needs to be implemented, or some of the paperwork can be, absolutely automated and very efficient at that stage. We'll have smart and automated warehouse, so that there'll be a lot of evolution on the logistics side as well. And this will be across many industries. I haven't talked about aerospace, defense, but farming will also be increasingly smart farming activities with sensors and actuators devices, all across some of the fields. Or the mining, I mean, you can name any industry, there will be some impact in terms of, how this is going to evolve. And it's also other technologies like artificial intelligence that support the analytics and the algorithm that will be developed, but also the blockchain, the additive manufacturing that will, add up to the, game-changing and transformation activities that will take place and integrate into this broader fourth industrial revolution. But let's start with a simple picture of what is the Internet of Things, and it's an architecture. There's different layers of things in the Internet of Things. The first one, the most basic one, is where you've got the hardware. Any piece of equipment, any component, any like a piece of hardware, you can add to it a number of sensors and actuators, a number of devices. And the sensors can capture some information and sending back to a network. The actuators can take information back from a network and then, change the way things operate locally on the hardware on the device that has been connected. So above all these things, we will have networks. Classic, network that we use with our mobile phone, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G in the future, but also other types of network from the Wi-Fi, from the WLAN, but also some network that can help us to go deep in the ground or in some of the basement, like the LoRaWAN type of networks. Just to give you a simple example, the city of Rotterdam has a lot of canals, and there's challenges in terms of flood too much water into a canal, leading to some flood of some of the residential area and places like this. And today, you still have some people going from one place to another and looking at what is the level of water, so they can try to manage the canal system in such a way that you prevent some of the flooding. It's not covered by all of the existing network. It needs specific networks because sometimes it goes quite a bit into the ground or things like this, so it can be covered with water. So by establishing a LoRaWAN network, there was the possibility of continuously monitoring the level of water everywhere in the canals, and therefore, bringing back the information in a central place. And from that point of view, being able to manage remotely the canal. So you see the benefits in terms of efficiencies, but also the benefits in terms of gathering data, understanding, predicting where problems will occur in the past by leveraging the data. And that brings us to the next level, which is the integration either through some platform, and that's a number of players are coming into the market and say, like we've got the iOS or the Android for our mobile phone. Tomorrow we will be having some platform for industrial Internet of Things, where a number of services, a number of suppliers, a number of tools will be directly available to connect big data with in-company data, and come up with some analysis, come up with some new services, come up with some new activities. Also, some companies will go and decide to develop some specific process and business model that they will rely on companies to do the integration for them, or they will do the integration themselves before we can reach the last level, which is all the application in terms of, for instance, better managing our supply chain, better managing our factories, but also new services, offering new customer experience, offering new added value solutions to customers. And in the end, in many places, this will lead to some business model transformation. So instead of manufacturing things, we will be offering like and leasing and renting and offering solutions in a very different way in the future. So you see that there's different layers. Some of the very basic layers of the thing, the network that connect things together, the platform or the integrator that assemble the different elements and pieces of information into some analytics, and after this can be turned into new processes, applications, services, business model. So this multiple layer is quite important to have in mind, because if we want to look at what will be the impact of the Internet of Things on the industry, then we need to see our current value chain and this architecture merging. Today, most of the companies, what we've done is we've built some service aggregator within our supply chain, within our value chain. So for instance, think of it as a travel agent. A travel agent is aggregating services from airlines, services from other companies, and offer you, an aggregation of services to your company. At the same time, we've got some suppliers who are aggregating parts and components or technologies and putting that into a system or a technology. So they act as an integrator of many, some components, some elements. And sometimes, you even have this relationship between service and technology systems where, they have to work together. But basically, you still have these, these types of chains being rather separate with some interaction at the top. And what will happen is the IoT architecture will be really merging and finding spaces in all the connections within the classic value chain that we have. We'll see hardware being spread everywhere in terms of actuators and sensors. The network will be overlapping the overall structure of the value chain. There will be companies coming in to support the integration activities across service and systems. And your company will be building some new application services and business models. So it's really a transformation of the architecture of industries that is in front of us. It's not a new technology that we need to buy. It's not like we've got to build a new category called IoT and buy stuff. No. This is really in front of us major changes in terms of industry architectures. And it's not just going to be improvement, it's going to be transformation, because every company is going to try to understand how they can, capture a bigger share of the profit within an industry when the IoT is available for them to build new service and solution. And also there will be major battles in terms of standards, coming from everywhere, because there will be a lot of challenge related to interoperability, related to security that will be building on standards, and there will be some very important transformation that will also affect industries here. So what we have in front of us is not just like adding stuff to buy, but really a tectonic change that will be going through and across all industries. Just a simple case, which is in the end not so simple, I think. This is a story from Unilever. A few years ago, 2014, Unilever started to send the message around. We've got this ice cream cabinet. This is a place in a store where you go and where you pick your ice cream and before you go to the cashier. Okay, so it's really simple. It's just a device, a sort of fridge that is used in order to keep cold the ice cream. And they say we're looking at working with startups to enhance customer experience through the ice cream cabinet. And of course, this was behind that there was the idea of using the Internet of Things, connecting sensors and actuators to the ice cream cabinet, putting it part of a network, having a mobile apps, getting some data generated, and social interaction. So last summer there was a launch of experiments in the UK with this ice cream cabinet, where for instance, one of the application was you could look in the area where you had the Magnum ice cream cabinet, and you can invite friends to share an ice cream with you. It's not just the Internet of Things, it's also about the open innovation, because it's a rather disruptive idea where they needed to bring together from the Unilever side an ad agency, a media company, together with a startup in order to develop the whole thing together, and not just doing the innovation alone, but having a sort of a three-party ways of building this new ice cream cabinet with the integrated solution. And if you think in terms of impact on the industry, this is not just about bringing new players like the startup to the party, but it's also transforming the interaction with the customer. So it's about finding a space within the retail environment where you can have direct interaction with your consumer and generate data out of this. So it's really shifting the boundaries of industries and creating new spaces where this used to be a black box, and this is now something where you've got information and you've got interaction with your final consumer. So this is a rather simple case. Some people might even say this is very basic IoT, but this really helps to illustrate, some of the transformation in terms of integrating new players, having an impact across the structure of industries. I think it's quite a nice and simple case to show this. Any questions related to the to that stage? Yes, I see you. Yeah, one question about the view of when in some countries internet is still a luxury. What will it come out of the Internet of Things? That's a very interesting question. It's indeed in some countries, not everybody is still connected to the internet, but what's do we have a technical problem? Okay. What we'll probably see happening is we will see some some quick catch up, in the sense of instead of going through step by step through a number of technology, of processes and solution, some of the country will move directly to the the final stage. If you look, for instance, at some of the mobile payment solution, I think today in Asia it's going much faster than in some of the European countries, because this is a new economies where things are moving much faster and people are ready to catch up in terms of both in terms of standards but also in terms of consumer practice. So it's true that the network is not yet everywhere, but there will be some fast changing behaviors in some of the countries that we might be seeing as lagging for the time being. And they'll come up with their own solutions, and they'll come up with some very creative ideas, I'm sure, in terms of making it work for their own case. I mean, I'm sure some of the people in the audience today who are from the telecom industry, remember these payment systems, the M-Pesa that was in Africa and that came very quickly across some African countries. A question from Anas about 5G. I mean, I think the 5G will become absolutely essential when we'll see more of the some mission critical type of activities. If you think of a of a power station, a nuclear power plant, of some of the operations, and where you absolutely need a massive flow of information in order to do some remote monitoring, then it will be absolutely essential that the 5G will be here in order to support some of the activity there. But what I think is happening, and people from the telecom probably have a better perspective than me on that, but there's a multiplication of solutions, there's a multiplication of trajectories of technology coming up in terms of even reusing some old type of network technologies that have been abandoned and putting them back to use into the Internet of Things, like some radio frequencies and things like that. So what we'll see is the old 2G, 3G, 4G finding some application. 5G will be complementing for some of the business critical types of application into the future, where a millisecond can be absolutely essential. But other networks for smart farming, for infrastructure that's deep in the ground, there will be many more types of solutions coming up, and they will assemble little by little. And this is certainly something to to pay attention to in order to understand what can be done and what won't be able to be possible on an immediate basis. Okay. So, oh yes, I wanted to have a short survey just to make sure everybody's with me and active here. So let's go through a short survey. We'll have the immediate answer to it. So the first one I'm proposing to you is for you to give a view of how the IoT will impact your company. It is like, no, it won't be having any impact, a low impact, some impact, of a very high impact. So you can just answer where you think that's relevant. So I see some of the numbers coming. Okay, more people are providing their data. Don't forget to press send on the bottom. I see more coming. Still some more. Yes, yes. Okay, it looks like it's stabilizing. So I'm going to be sharing the result with you, and what you see here and what you tell me is it will be between some impact and some high impact that we will be seeing coming. And let's go through another question, which is the impact in terms of the procurement. So I'll stop sharing this and I'll go to the next question very quickly. So now that we've got the data about the impact on your company, how will the IoT impact, how you do the purchasing work in your company? Okay, I see some answers coming in. More and more. Okay, keep going, keep going. There's still a few more. Don't forget to press send. Good, good, good. So what we see here is still, very high in terms of high impact and some impact. And I think that's really. I'm going to be sharing now the screen. So here we see that it's even stronger. Huh? The perception is, yes, there will be impact on my company, but at the same time, there'll be even more impact in terms of the purchasing function. And I think it makes sense because it's not just about, what we do internally that's going to make a difference, is how we harness everything that's happening outside in order to enable our company to leverage the IoT. Okay, let's go back to the presentation and let's start to think in terms of, what will be the impact for the purchasing function. That now we've established that, yes, industry will change significantly, and this will require purchasing also to, transform itself to grab some of the opportunities here. So this is what I call, the IoT Russian doll. And again, this is this perspective of, at one level, industry transformation. There will be new players coming in, whether there will be startups or big companies or, companies from very distant industries. They will be enabling the industry transformation, the digitalization. It will be important to, build some new systems architecture that will integrate the sensor, the actuator, the devices, the communication infrastructure, but we'll see the cloud, the platform, the big data, the analytics, being merging into all this. In front of that, this is now outside transformation. Company will need to transform themselves. They will rethink their business model. They will come up with new positioning, new types of solution they will be putting on the market, and new ways of fighting for a share of the profit of across the industry. This will mean that they will have to change the way they perform some of the horizontal and vertical collaboration within the company and with players outside the company. And when you see this means that purchasing will play a key role in this transformation, and we need to transform itself. And it's not just about digitalization of procurement activities. This is a much broader type of change because it's very much linked to innovation sourcing, being able to size all these external opportunities and to bring them in. And here we see how the three things connect together. And if we want to go back to maybe some of other terminology, going from Industry 4.0 to Enterprise 4.0 to Purchasing 4.0, I think that's a parallel we can draw here. What does it mean in terms of evolution? Today, a lot of people in procurement are fighting for early involvement in projects. I think, with the transformation ahead, this will mean early involvement in some of the strategic exploration. We'll have to be part of the team. We'll have to be part of the, work group that are looking into what's possible for tomorrow, how we can evolve some of the business model and participate to some of the strategic exploration from the early stages, so we can start to look at our supply network, at the ecosystem, with already some ideas in mind in terms of what we need to bring to the party. A major impact of the Internet of Things. You remember this merging of the two worlds, physical and digital. leading to the architecture and our classic value chain to merge, will be really changing how we work. And today we have still very narrow segments of purchasing, and the more narrow the segment is, the more specialists we can be at trying to commoditize stuff around it. And some of us buy parts, some of us buy services, some of us buy equipment, capex. But tomorrow we will all be buying a solution. So if you think of a smart factory, for instance, or a smart equipment, in the past, some people would buy different machines together. Some people would be buying some of the maintenance services and other type of service that go along with the equipment. And you would have a number of people in the purchasing function being involved in this kind of activities. And tomorrow, this will be bought as a much broader solution, where some people might be bringing elements, and others bringing the turnkey solution. So it will force us to rethink our segmentation and rethink the way we organize ourselves around some of the what we buy. It will be too late, to wait for people to give you the specification. We need to anticipate the needs by being part of the strategic exploration group, by understanding what solution will be making sense to solve, the problem that the business is, looking at solving into the future. Instead of looking at the top 2 or 3 suppliers in a classic way, thinking who can bring me a little bit of cost advantage, who can bring me a bit of innovation advantage, then we need to look at the broader ecosystem, like the ice cream cabinet, where you need to bring together different companies in order to assemble the solution, assemble the innovation, and having this type of ecosystem thinking. It won't just be about being part of some cross-functional teams. It will be part of a managing cross-company innovation team and cross-companies. Maybe it will be not just one player, but 2 or 3 players around. I mean, in front of you, but 2 or 3 players in front of you. Think of a smart city, and the city procurement team is not going to buy a smart city somewhere. They will have to bring together different suppliers, put them into a sort of innovation team, so they can co-design, co-integrate, and co-develop what will be the smart city of the future. So afterwards, they can bring some elements together. And it won't be just a one-time type of project, but there'll be a first layer of activities and a second layer of activities, with new players being further involved every time, and a new business model coming into the party. If you start to put a number of sensors on taxi in a company, suddenly you can offer new service for the police, you can offer new service for sport activities, but you can also turn that into a service for companies who are doing like maintenance, so they can make intervention at best time. You can offer new services to logistics company who've got to deliver inside the city, and many other applications. So it's not one thing happening at once, but layers of new service and business model that will come into play through more of these cross companies innovation teams. Today we tend to buy, and when the contract's here we stop buying. Tomorrow we'll need to very much accompany the change. As we've seen before, some of the smart equipment, smart factories, smart operations, they will need much less people. And therefore, it won't just be about like here it is, but it will be making sure that the right change management can be implemented together with it. And when people will be bringing some innovation with new revenues, there'll be a lot of people that will be skeptical to the new solution, to the innovative solution being put forward. So again, there will be a need to be part of the team that will support the transformation, support the change. And in terms of what we do from a purchasing point of view, maybe today, we just come from other functions. We learn the purchasing process, and that's fine. But tomorrow, in order to support the integration of IoT, we'll have this requirement to be putting some more, understanding of the analytics, getting all the data, trying to understand what it means, how it can be leveraged to create new services. But also we need to be building more relationship across these companies, and within the company, this horizontal and vertical collaboration will have a stronger role to play here, well beyond, the classic process. Today, we still see a lot of purchasing teams. They work on a strategy and it's a simple plan of actions, but we need to do more experimentation. The Internet of Things is not calling for doing more strategic work sometimes. It's simply calling us for daring to experiment, coming up with a supplier, some internal partner, working on a prototype, trying to learn out of it. Experimentation, not just planning. And when we plan, probably working more on scenarios of, if you want to go in that direction, then this is how the footprint of the suppliers, the network of suppliers would look like. If you want to go in that direction, it would look differently, and therefore this is how I would make this work. I see there's a question. I'm going to look at it. The role of purchasing people in the cross-company innovation teams. Well, we've been doing some of the case study in order to look at this, and there's a number of elements. But when you are, for instance, having more than one companies supporting the integration of solution for smart devices, for instance, when this was done through collaboration, the role of procurement was a role of facilitator. It was a role of bringing continuity over time. It was a role of, making sure that the right level of collaboration was happening. It's not about taking the decision. It's not about being the leader of the teams all the time, but it's about, making sure that people are not, hiding stuff under the table. They're saying yes, but they think no. It's really making sure that everybody is really moving in a transparent way together, taking the lessons from what's happening and making things happen on a day-to-day basis. So it's really enabling these cross-company innovation teams as a facilitator of change, sometimes closing the door, letting the people play with their toys, because you've got some engineers wanting to explore a little bit, but reopening the doors and making sure it's really connected with the business stuff. It's not a purchasing project, it's a business project where purchasing plays this role of, the facilitation and ensuring continuity, because people go away in this project, they change job. And it's really important to pay attention to this and maintain a sense of continuity and ensuring that everybody is continuously on the same page of why is it that we've decided to keep this collaboration alive. I see another question about a new skill set. We'll be coming back to the point about the role of a purchasing manager when we'll be talking about how to embrace the change within about 15-20 minutes after we've gone through some of the case studies. So I'll keep that questions. We'll come back on it and see if we're answering on this one. So basically, we are facing a dilemma, which is on what side do we want to be? And do we want to be part of the pragmatists who tend to be the last one to adopt the change, or do we want to be some visionaries? And very clearly, the DNA of purchasing, the DNA of procurement is not to be part of visionaries. We are part of the people who, kind of stay prudent because we play a key role in risk management. We want to stay reasonable with budget because this is part of our DNA. We prefer to make a slow, steady progress, and we kind of think that people who come up with, radical change all the time are kind of dangerous people. So in many circumstances, we'll need to stay very pragmatist, but, in few occasions, in some situation, we'll need to, get a bit of a shot of the startup culture, visionary culture, be more adventurous, think big, be ambitious, and dare to implement some new ideas among the first within our company, our industry. So we will really need to rebalance, not just being all the time the pragmatist, but also be a bit more on the visionary side, without, thinking that we will be totally shifting side here, but finding the right balance, and that will be part of the key role of a CPO or purchasing manager, is be able to drive his team in two different ways, some of them as a pragmatist, some of them as visionaries, understanding when you need to change gear and move into the other ways of working. So that, situational leadership type of capability will become more and more essential, because there won't be just one process, there will be, different process we will be using in different contexts. So the skills, on one hand, it will be important to anticipate the needs and, not just managing individuals, but managing communities of users using some of the, some of the tools, some of the community management tools that will exist in terms of internal social media and stuff like that, but also, having some regular exchange and really treating our internal business partner and sometimes the final customer as a community we engage with. On the other hand, also being able to, engage with not only the classic players, but, work with some of the startups that are coming forward, and we need to find new ways of working with them, being part of this open innovation culture. Helping people from the business who might have been working in certain ways for a long time to welcome change coming from outside a bit more, to give a chance, to look at the world differently, and to be able to bring some of the innovation from outside. Leading the teams, we mentioned that. Easing the change, we've mentioned that. On the other side, it's not just about this anticipation and that we will need to see new skills, but a more holistic thinking. We're still too much thinking in terms of where are the savings here. And it's not just about procurement. We need to think in terms of business project and really holistic thinking, not just on business impact, but also environmental impact, societal impact. There's a clear role for companies not just to embrace IoT, but to go toward more sustainability, and this is going to go hand in hand. And we have a role to play here in terms of looking at the broader solution and understanding how we can contribute to build these solutions. Mapping ecosystems, all of the players, that can contribute to these, new business models and framework. And very often we're still looking at intellectual property as being, a key element where we are managing it with a risk perspective. We need also to see data, but data not just as a risk, but data also as an opportunity. So this will also become a key element to understand, the meaning of data for the business, what application can come out of it, what risk can be associated with it. And certainly what we need to do is, is gain more of this pattern recognition. If you're, not just looking in our industry, but benchmarking in other industry. If I'm building campers, I need to look at what's happening with trucks and with connected cars and with many other industries, so I can recognize patterns of solution that can be used in my industry. So looking broader and being able to catch some of the emerging best practice from different areas to integrate that in my ways of working and proposal for the business. So a bit more of an explorator and analyst type of role on the architecturing of solutions. Hey, let's take a quick survey. So we discussed, some of the some of the transformation that will be expected from procurement due to this Internet of Things. So I would like you to pick three out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that you have here. Pick three, and then you can click on send, and then we can see where do you see the need to do more in terms of progress and getting new skills and new processes and new ways of working. I see the bars moving, some progress. I'll take the advantage of this moment to have a drink. Some more coming, some more coming. Quite similar patterns compared to this morning, interesting. We already had a group this morning, we went through the same exercise and basically, yeah, some of them could be a bit less, a bit more, but we've got some similar rankings. So I'm going to share with you. So the number one will be the facilitation of the cross-company collaboration, with 52% of you, saying this will be something where we need to progress, and then understanding the needs of stakeholders and customers, not just like expecting and asking for functional but requirements, but really understanding their pain point, the future needs, what's going to be changing, which goes nicely, I think, with the involvement in the strategic exploration. And after the number three is thinking in ecosystem. So very similar to the feedback we had this morning, and really some very concrete type of a transformation that we need to see happening. Okay, let's go back. I'd like to share with you a few case studies. Case studies coming from a utility company, Suez Water Company, a cheese manufacturer, looking at a beverage company, Schneider Electric, which is making a lot of the infrastructure for energy and electricity production and transportation distribution. A case from Peugeot and oil industry. I won't be, talking too much about the Fujitsu. This was an interview that I conducted, and that's actually in the document on the observatory, because it looks at it from a supplier point of view. Fujitsu is a provider of Internet of Things solutions, and we had some views from them in terms of, the challenge of interacting with customers. So if you're interested in that, you can go back to the document, which is freely downloadable. For each of the case study, I'll try to go through a number of points. What was the focus area in terms of transformation? Where the need was coming from? How did they search for some of the partners? How did they integrate the solution together between the hardware and the software? What type of organization they've put together in place in order to make this work? What the nature of the collaboration going on between the partners, and what type of result they got out of it. And I think what's interesting is not so much to look for a common pattern, but just to look at the diversity of situations. So if we look at the Suez case, this is a water utility company, and this was a project that already started a number of years ago when they want to put smart meters. So instead of having someone coming to your house to collect the information about the amount of water that has been consumed, the idea is to have sensors and to have a network that's going to pass the information. And really, in terms of focus area, it is about transforming the process of the company, but it's really the core business, the distribution of water, and being able at the end to build a customer for it. This is really the core business. So what we have here is an application of the Internet of Things that's really fully integrated with the core business. It came from customers asking from, some evolution. They've, there was already some experiment with these types of ways of working, technological change, and customers were asking for it. And one of their customer, said, we want the next generation of infrastructure related to water to be able to offer this to us. And they looked at their market. They looked at who was the best place in terms of providing some of the meters that would be having some ability to communicate, and they looked at the data management company, a telecom company that would be able also to join forces in terms of developing the solution. So they didn't decide to make it like an internal development. They didn't decide to build a joint venture. What they decided to do is to build a project where three companies would be working on a collaborative mode, developing the solution for Suez, but also developing the solution as a standard for the industry. So in terms of organization, there was an alliance that was being put together and really transforming the core business. The result of it is not specifically about savings or efficiencies. It's really about differentiation, offering something totally different to the customers. For instance, like they were able to have different tariff and different relationship with the homeowners. Now there was getting access to the water. They were able to offer special tariff to people who have a low income, for instance, and also some other dimension in terms of fighting against water leakages. So this is the first case. The second case is a very simple one, but I also wanted to have some very practical things. It's a cheese factory, and they use a lot of consumable gloves and stuff you put earplugs and many other consumables in the environment of food. This is absolutely essential, and they were having a number of difficulties in terms of sourcing all these elements and making sure everybody was having access to them, and some people were overusing some of the stuff. So they thought, well, we need to find a solution. They looked on the market. They saw that some of the vending machines were currently being available for being used for industrial applications. So every employee is now having a badge, and they can badge into the machine, and they can take what's useful for them. The way of working was actually to find a supplier and to ensure that this supplier would be integrating all the things this company was needing and being able to deliver that. So they let them, kind of integrate, the overall process of buying all the equipment and managing the vending machine and the overall information process around it. It was still a form of collaboration and alliance because they needed to help the supplier to be able to buy everything they had. So they had to transfer their purchasing skills to and knowledge to that supplier. Impact was an impact in terms of cost, in terms of efficiencies of the processes, and also an impact in terms of sustainability in the sense of performance, because people were consuming less, and therefore there was less waste coming out of this. Another case study, this is the case of a beverage company. So in this company, there was a team of from the marketing who said, hey, we have all our drinks available in a number of bars and retail environment, but when we look at like an hospital, when we look at schools, universities, when we look at the gyms, there should be some ways of giving access to our drinks to the people in these places in a more engaging and a more interesting way. And at that time, a startup came up with the concept of a social vending machine. So it's basically a vending machine, and you operate it with a mobile phone, and then you press a button, you automatically pay, you can share the drink with a friend. I mean, there's a lot of social activities coming around it. Huh? And really, in their situation, it wasn't about just coming up with a new process or changing their core business. It was about a really entrepreneurial activity, a new venture, if you want, a new revenue streams, like a blue ocean kind of a space for competing that nobody was occupying already. They were able to attract the startup simply because they were attractive, because they were a well-placed player in this market, and the startup really wanted to work with them. And the integration, they left it to the startup. So the startups ended up developing, the full application, but also the machine. And, this was really a true collaboration between a big company and a startup that helped to bring this together. And the results are not just in terms of, I'm not about efficiencies or cost here. They're purely about creating new revenue streams, new ways of making money, but also some brand by associating, their product with digital interaction and offering some new customer experience. So here we see some very interesting type of case study. 4 is about the oil industry. This was someone who did a study for operating oil fields what could be the benefit of the Internet of Things. So it was really about focusing on the core business, gaining more efficiencies, looking at a full ecosystem of players, traditional service providers, but also bringing some of the tier 2, tier 3 suppliers to the forefront because they work on the data, also bringing some startup into play. So really having this ecosystem perspective, and then, integrating with some of the service provider through some collaboration with multiple players, this new solution around the oil fields. And the outcome of it was certainly not about new products, was certainly not about multidimensional innovation. It was simply being more efficient in everything that was done, more efficient in terms of maintenance, more efficient in terms of operation efficiencies. Schneider Electric was a multiple case, and this is a company who was building the infrastructure for the smart grids in electricity. So very much the Internet of Things is in connection with the core business, and it sometimes can bring additional revenue streams, new opportunities to create services, business model that were different from the one of the past. The inputs can be coming from different sources. Sometimes this is a requirement from customers who drive them to do things differently. Sometimes, they've got some new ventures. Let's try to do something different because, we see some trends and therefore we could try to operate differently. We've got now the data, we've got the equipment, so let's try to make things different. Here, it's really an ecosystem analysis where they need to bring different players. This is a company that has already invested quite a lot of efforts in working with startups and working differently with external partners. Sometimes they've got to go back to vertical integration. Sometimes they realize that in order to come up with a new system, they need to do the design by themselves, and purchasing's got to step back and go back to buying some of the components, when in some other occasion they need to go outside to find a fully turnkey solution. And this is really an interesting case because we see more diversity in terms of the scope of what we need to source from outside. And from one story to another, one situation, one business unit, you could have some very different situation where you really need to adapt quickly to. It can be about setting up a true competence center in procurement to be able to understand what are the change from outside and helping the company, bringing them in, building alliances, collaboration, also startup collaboration in terms of organization. And in terms of result, it's not, it is about efficiencies in some ways, in some circumstances, but it's also about multiple dimensional innovation, innovating in multiple ways on one single project and bringing differentiation to the company. The Peugeot one was the telematics in the car. It's one of the MBA students we have in Shanghai that was, working in purchasing R&D team, and the telematics here. Like on your phone, you've got Android or you've got the Apple system, and they are the basis for you to interact with all the apps you can get through your phone. And in China, there's no Apple, there's no Google, so they needed to build their own infrastructure, their own platform, in order to give access to applications within cars. So Peugeot got together with Dongfeng, which is a Chinese automotive company, and they came up with their own marketplace and their own telematic application for the car. So the immediately after they've built it, the big internet companies and some startup bang at the door and say, hey, we want to make our application services and new development available to the users of the car. So they didn't know who should be taking care of that in the company. So this ended up being, people in R&D service purchasing who took over this, and the MBA student I had in Shanghai at that time. And what's interesting is that person ended up managing the startup accelerator for Peugeot in China, and bringing on a regular basis new waves of startup to develop services that will be used, that are used now within the Peugeot car in China. So very much about startup collaboration and multiple, multidimensional type of innovation again here. I will skip this one. I think it's interesting to, just to highlight the challenge of integration and who should be doing integration. But I'd like to, focus probably on some of the last point in terms of what does it mean in terms of change. All of this is driving us to see the world slightly differently. We can do purchasing by, sticking to the knitting, what we do usually, focusing on our category, being cost efficient, asking for requirement, then doing a bit of market intelligence, outsourcing some activities, and then, working in category team and fighting for a bit of early involvement. So that's really the basics that we are living through today. But what we see through the project, I've just presented, through the case studies, it goes much further in terms of new frontiers. So in terms of focus, it's not just a certain category, but it's also the business process, core business transformation, and the development of new revenue streams, like in the case of the beverage or in the case of Schneider Electric. In terms of result, it's not just cost and efficiencies. IoT is bringing that in some occasion and in some of the case studies, but it's also more performance, more differentiation, and multidimensional innovation that we've seen, being brought in some of the cases. In terms of the needs, it wasn't just about, being more efficient, except in one or two cases, but it's really about the pain point of the user, the customer, a vision for the future, the customer roadmap, and sometimes some very entrepreneurial small teams, blue ocean type of project that were set up together, like for the beverage company. The way of looking for the players, sometimes was simply the market, the intelligence activities, but in other occasions, naturally some of the players were coming to the company in some of the case. In other circumstances, they needed to do a full ecosystem analysis in order to understand really who was going to be able to, bring stuff together. And tomorrow, this will probably be further digitalized and supported by more artificial intelligence. Integration, key element of decision here. Do we let someone outside do the integration of all the objects and information together? Do we do that fully internally, going back to vertical integration, or do we have some form of collaborative integration by having joint project with suppliers? Major decision, it's really revisiting the core, non-core way of thinking, but in a much more dynamic and fast-changing types of environment. It's not just about being good at something, it's about speed, it's about availability of capabilities, it's about your availability of money to make these things happen. And, the decision-making process is fascinating and got more dimension than purely the classic core, non-core that we've seen over time. We'll see the impact in terms of organization, but in terms of collaboration, different case studies, we've seen like this early involvement being essential in some cases, collaboration with startups, collaboration really at the core of the business by bringing this smart meter company and this data company, but also this multiplayer type of collaboration. So we really see the playing field for purchasing to be broader directly through, the case studies I've presented. In terms of organization, and this will drive to a different way of thinking, because all of this project, they needed to be done, using different approaches. So we will still need to do some of the basics in terms of tactical buying. And here what I've put together is a simple matrix where the speed of change and the complexity on the demand side, the speed of change and the complexity on the supply side. So if things don't change too fast, then you can really work in a routine mode, and it's really some tactical buying mode that you can implement. If things get a bit more, complex or changing, then you have the traditional, category management approach of consolidating the needs and, standardizing the offerings, commoditizing the offerings, and being able to look a longer term in terms of, how can get to the best price and achieve the expected value. And then, as you move beyond in terms of speed of change, in some cases, being very close to your business partner, they keep changing. You can build some of your classic suppliers combination in order to respond, to their fast changing need or to their complexity. And on the other side, You have situation where, maybe the business is not integrating some of the stuff you source on a regular basis, and you know more than them about what's happening on the market, what are the new solutions that are continuously popping up, and you act as a competence center. And so, for instance, if you've got to buy some of the new sensors and actuators that are going to be integrated into some of the IoT projects, for instance, well, probably you've got more understanding of what's available than even some of the engineers inside the company. So you're here to, give access to some of these elements, advise the business on how to use that. And in the middle, it's very much about managing this cross-company collaboration. And at the end, where everything is changing very fast, it's about working in a startup mode, looping, coming up with new prototypes, new idea, experimenting, being very agile, fast moving, fast procurement, and experimenting. So breaking the rules of procurement, the classic rules of procurement, the classic risk management logic, and being able to jump on a situation, support the business with, some fast and rapid solutions to experiment and look for what works, what doesn't work, and what can be further used in the future. Hey, let's do a survey on this one, also keeping you engaged on this element. So there will be two as well on this one. So the first one is just asking you, as a purchasing professional, what mode do you usually work in? In what mode do you usually operate? And what I'm asking you is just to enter 3 maximum, and then to press send. Okay, I see more coming, slowing down. Okay, so yep, mainly category management, business partnering mode, a little bit of collaboration, alliance, competence center, and some tactical. So that's where you say you currently operate. Then let's go to another survey. And let's get your view on what mode should be further developed in your company. So looking into the future, what type of mode should be further developed in order to respond to the challenge and the ways of working in the associated with, the business transformation, the Internet of Things. Okay, see more coming. Hey, same pattern as this morning. Interesting. More is coming. Okay. Don't forget to press send. Still missing a few compared to the last question. Must be the French who are getting tired of voting all the time. Okay, so sharing, number one being collaboration alliance mode like this morning, and the startup mode, but also, also some mention in terms of competence center and business partnering. This morning we're more in Asia, and there was still some, category management that needed to be further implemented over there apparently, but otherwise, very different patterns. So it's really interesting because, we work essentially tactical category management, business partnering, and we see a shift, in terms of going on the other side and needing to do more of the collaboration, more of the competence center, and more of the startup mode. So this is really the evolution of the purchasing function I see coming in the coming years. Is this, being more diversity in our ways of working and being able to go in those different aspects. trying to give you some very practical advice. I think that we've gone too far in the purchasing world in terms of defining very narrow segment for what we buy. So I think it's important to look at broader families, broader segment, and that we should be able to continuously revisit what's our value proposition to the business partners and the customer related to this segment. So, a simple way of doing this is to have a board next to you on the wall, and then together with your teams on a regular basis is to revisit a number of basic questions. This is, the adaptation of the purchasing of the business model framework for purchasing. So really answering a simple number of questions. Who are our business partner? Who are our customers? How do we manage the relationship with them? What is the value proposition we offer them? Who are existing suppliers? Who could be the future suppliers? What type of process and systems we need to bring all this together? And what would be our impact in terms of cost, revenue, and how can we measure our performance? By continuously keeping your team engaged in revisiting, fine-tuning their value proposition, their way of managing relationship, this is how you'll be able to continuously drive the transformation within your organization. So it's not about a one-time single radical transformation. Maybe you're still doing a lot in terms of the category management mode, and you're slowly developing value proposition where you support intercompany, cross-company collaboration, for instance. So that's your value proposition evolving slowly, for instance. And then at some point being able to take people out of the team and sending them in a startup mode with your business partners can be essential and a way of enhancing your value proposition. So instead of having like a mission that's here forever and reviewing your performance, being more regular in terms of revisiting your fundamentals. So there's a question related to this landscape of innovation and the relation in terms of innovation and maturity, or if I see it as a frame that could look at all cases. Well, two ways of answering your question. I don't think that even for all the maturity models, we needed to see them as the last stage of maturity is the absolute goal. In some cases, we were able just to progress to level 3, 4 on the Vanville maturity, and that was fine for a certain category. And I think for me, the framework for the organizational model is about the full picture, and we will need to still do some of the very basics of tactical purchasing, building shared services that will be able to integrate some of the tactical buying activities. We still need to to do some of the category management, but at the same time. So I think it's about being ambidextrous on one end, being super efficient on some of the activities, and on the other end, being able to work more on the innovation side. So it's not a maturity issue. It's more about the diversity of mode we are able to use that will be important in the future. After clearly from the feedback you gave in terms of where we operate in today and where we should be making progress to operate in, there's progress to be made in some of the areas. So we need to gain maturity in terms of our ways of operating in certain mode. But overall, I don't think it's we all need to go in the startup mode. No, we need to to put the resources where it makes sense for the business, where it makes sense for the final customer. So just getting close to the end, very close to the answer I just gave you. The challenge for the future is for me, agility in the sense of operating in multiple modes, trying to have people who are able to work for a few days in a category management mode, then in some occasion move into more collaboration type of activities. And when rules need to be broken, hey, let's free them, and maybe they can work more in terms of the startup mode, or jumping from business partnering to collaboration to category management, or any of the three around. So that's what I see about the challenge for the organization. We are too much monolithic in our way of thinking. We are too much monoprocess. We are too much like a one size fits all, and we're too much, there's only one way of doing things. We need to see the world as different types of situations that require different, type of solutions, and the process should look slightly different between one situation to another, and we need to be able to jump between one or the other when it's relevant, being agile in that sense. We need people who have new skills and new profile, not just in terms of purchasing, analytics, relationship skills, but also in terms of understanding the markets, in terms of what's coming in ecosystems. So we need people who are moving from being T-shaped. They know one industry and they've got all the generalist, broad procurement knowledge, to people who can be in V-shape or a comb shape. People who understand both software and hardware, and how to manage in different ways the suppliers. And at the same time, even maybe we need people who understand software, hardware, integration, and also are able to orchestrate multiple modes of purchasing work, and so they can bring the best to the company. This is the transformation R&D went through many years ago. This is the transformation of having some advanced labs to very customer-focused innovation. And companies today, they have multiple R&D organizations with different style, different ways of working, different skills, and they complement each other. So that's really something that now we need to bring to the purchasing function. We need to bring in our ways of working, because otherwise, we won't be part of this transformation. We won't be part of this change. And the more diversity we bring in our ways of working, the more fundamental it will be to manage purchasing teams as a community, sharing best practice across, sharing tools across, sharing information across, making sure that, yes, we all operate in different way, but that at the same time we're part of the same team, and bringing some internal community management around. Maybe in terms of a conclusion, the whole thing will mean that Internet of Things will transform our industries. This will push us to, change a lot of our technology and systems. Please, don't just digitalize your purchasing process because it's about freeing time for more strategic activities. The end game is not just about efficiencies. This is about business relevant. This is about business speed. We digitalize to help to further help the business transform itself and help the industries evolve, not just our own internal efficiencies. Organization and processes, multiplying the mode of work we have in order to bring all dimensions of the Internet of Things and the transformation that are coming along, but orchestrating the diversity. We shouldn't be, having different schools fighting internally. We need to understand what's the best mode and how to use it in the best way. So, things are going smoothly all across the business with the support we can bring. And in terms of management and people, this is called situational leadership, finding the right way of doing things and developing these new skills all across the organization. Final conclusion, final word from me on this, I'm also on my, I'm also doing some history work. This was my PhD. And, if you go back to Adam Smith in 1776, the man who wrote The Wealth of Nations, the man who talked about the division of labor with the pin factory, just after the description of the pin factory, he was describing the division of labor for innovation. And he said that some people who bring innovation are people who work on the machine, people who are designing the machine, but also he talks about philosophers, men of speculation, who observe everything, and who are capable of combining the power of the most distant and dissimilar objects. And I think this is really amazing to go back to history and to see here what's happening today. This was the first industrial revolution. We are probably in what people call today the fourth industrial revolution. And once more, for a number of years, we're going to have to bring this most distant and dissimilar object and capabilities together to change the architecture of many industries. And this will be an opportunity for procurement. This will be an opportunity for purchasing. This will be challenging, but this will be a fascinating transformation we can be part of. Thank you. That was my final conclusion. We'll be running some more webinars in the future, running a CPO roundtable in June, having a workshop on innovation days with suppliers in June as well. Well, many more things coming in terms of exploring the future together. I hope you enjoyed the session, and I look forward to be in touch with you in the future. Any last question? Yes, we've just run in the time. So everybody's probably looking at the next meeting. Ah, no, I see some questions coming. Just some thank you. Well, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Anes, for your thank you. And, looking forward to be in touch with you in the future. And enjoy. See you soon. Ah, yes, that's ce que je faisais. Terminé.